They don't have white feathered wings. They don't have baby faces with golden halos. They don't look like the engravings that adorn the stained glass windows of Renaissance churches. Those delicate, harmless creatures that perch on the shoulders of saints like sleeping doves. The truth is much more terrifying, much more glorious. When God sends an angel to earth, the first thing he needs to say is, "Do not be afraid." And it is not a gentle suggestion, it is a desperate command. It is the cry of one who knows the unbearable weight of what is about to appear. Forget everything you've been taught. Forget the paintings, the statues. Because when you stand before the true form of an angel, before the raw manifestation of God's glory, your body no longer obeys. Your heart doesn't beat. Your knees can't support your weight. You fall. You fall as if struck by lightning. More than 3,000 years ago, in a desert burning under a merciless sun, a man walked alone. This man's name was Moses. And he was a murderer fleeing to the mountains of Midian, seeking only to disappear, far from the justice of Egypt, far from everything he had destroyed. Moses was 70 years old. For 40 years he had lived in hiding, tending flocks in the barren mountains, forgotten by the world, forgotten even by God. Or so Moses believed. On that day, when the heat of the desert acted like an alchemist, Moses saw something impossible. There was a burning bush on the horizon, but it was not being consumed. The flames enveloped it like a second skin. Moses walked toward it, and when he got close enough, a voice cut through the air. It was not a human voice. It was as if the universe itself had learned to speak, with an authority that made the ground shake. "Moses!" And at that moment, the forgotten man understood. God had seen him during all those 40 years, and now he would be called to something impossible, to something that would break the most powerful empire on earth, to something that would free millions of people. But Moses' encounter with the sacred was indirect. The voice came through the bush. The manifestation was veiled, filtered, made bearable. It was not always so. The prophet Ezekiel saw an angel in its true form. He was exiled in Babylon when the heavens opened. He saw creatures that had 4 simultaneous faces. 4 faces looking in 4 directions at the same time. Human, lion, ox-eagle. They had wings that shone like gleaming bronze, as if they had been forged in the heart of a star. And these wings moved in a non-Euclidean way, at angles that the human mind still struggles to comprehend. And around them were gigantic wheels filled with eyes, hundreds of eyes, thousands of eyes, seeing everything simultaneously. When Ezekiel saw this, he fell to the ground like a dead man. Because when you are in the presence of such a fundamental creation, so different from anything you know, your body simply gives up. You understand in that instant that you are just dust, that your whole life is less than a grain of sand on the infinite beach of eternity. That's why they say, don't be afraid, because fear is the natural response. Fear is correct. Fear is appropriate in the face of the sacred. And then there was Mary, a young woman, probably under 20 years old, living in a small town called Nazareth, despised by the religious elite of the time. She was alone when he appeared. The angel Gabriel, one of the most important messengers in the entire heavenly hierarchy. And when Gabriel appeared to Mary, without warning, the first thing he did was say, "Do not be afraid, Mary." But why? Because the radiance of glory that accompanied Gabriel was so intense that the very air seemed to crack. The presence was so overwhelming that Mary felt as if she were being pressed to the ground by an invisible force, like being in the presence of a living mountain, of an intelligence so vast that you can feel its immensity through your skin. Mary fell to her knees, and Gabriel said, "Do not be afraid, Mary. You have found favor with God." At that moment, in a small, despised town, before a young woman who had no power, who was of no importance in the eyes of the world, the entire future was rewritten. And it all began with an angel saying, "Do not be afraid." Angels appear many times in sacred stories. They appear to Abraham, trembling with fear before the impossible promise. They appear to Gideon, a man so fearful that he was hiding in a ditch when he received the message. They appear to the shepherds in the dark fields outside Bethlehem, and those men simply tremble when they see the glory of heaven open up. And each time, the first word is the same: do not be afraid. Why? Because fear is the barrier between the human and the sacred. It is the precipice that separates finite creation from the infinite Creator. And when you are called to be in the presence of the divine, you must first endure it. You must understand that you are small, that you are insignificant, that you are before something that cannot be understood, only accepted. The initial fear is necessary. Fear is honest. It is the right response. But then comes faith, comes acceptance, comes the understanding that in the face of all this immensity, in the face of all this glory that should destroy you, the sacred still chooses to speak to you. The sacred still chooses to use your fragile body, your limited mind, to do something impossible. And maybe that's what matters most. It's not the appearance of angels. It's not the radiance of glory or the wheels full of eyes. What matters is what it means to be so completely dwarfed by the sacred that you understand you are nothing. And then, despite that, you are chosen. Chosen to do something. Chosen to be something. Chosen to participate in a story that completely surpasses your ability to understand, but still needs you. Moses, that fugitive murderer, will lead millions of people to freedom. Mary, that despised young woman, will be the mother of the one who will save the world. The ignored shepherds will be the first to know the incarnation of the divine. It all started when an angel appeared and said, "Do not be afraid." So, when you read the ancient stories, remember that we are talking about beings of cosmic intelligence, about guardians of God's throne, about creatures so profoundly different from anything you know that your mind resists even trying to contemplate their true form. And yet, they come to you. Still they speak. Still they say with an authority that reverberates through the centuries, "Do not be afraid, because you have been chosen, not in spite of being small, but because you are, not in spite of being finite, but because you are. And your life, however insignificant it may seem, has the potential to be transformed into something eternal, something that will echo through the ages, something that will participate in the divine plan of redemption and glory." If this story touched your heart, if you felt the presence of the sacred in these words, leave a comment below telling us how these truths give new meaning to your faith. When was the moment you felt small before God, but still chosen? And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because there are many more of these epic stories waiting for you. Stories that transform the way we understand the divine. stories that remind us that even though we are dust, we are made in the image of that which is infinite. May the glory of God rest upon you